Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the hidden movement game Mind MGMT from designers Cormier and Sen-Foong and publisher Off the Page Games. This is based off of the Matt Kindt comic book Mind MGMT that I happen to be a big fan of. And when I saw this come out, I tend not to be generally a huge fan of hidden movement games, but with this sort of IP put on it, and hearing all of the good buzz around this game, I really figured this is something I need to take a look at because this might just be that gem of a hidden movement game that I've been looking for. Disclaimer, I was given a review copy of this game for this video, but as always, I will do my best to offer you my own honest opinion on the game. With that said, let's head down to the table to see how this game plays in the solo mode, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. Before I begin setup, I just want to point out here that the copy of the game you will be seeing in this video is a deluxe copy of the game, so many of the components will not be representative of the components you see in the retail version of the game. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into setup. To set up a solo game of Mind MGMT, begin by placing out the game board. Next, place out all of the different cards from the game. First, I'm going to place out the 4 different character cards of the rogue agents that we as the solo player will be playing. We've got Bill Falls, Dusty, Henry Lime, and Meru. And we also start off with an ally in this game, the Black Ops Dolphin. And then I'm going to put out the 2 cards for the potential recruiter. The recruiter of this game will be one of these 2 recruiters. The first is Pipe Girl, and the second is Carl Box, the ad man. And the only difference between these 2 is going to be the sort of special movement they can do when they take what's called a mind slip, but I'll explain that later when we get into gameplay. Next, I'm going to place out these 16 feature cards. I'm just going to stick these up here, but I'll move them around down here quite a bit as we get into gameplay. And then finally, the last set of cards that I am going to place out are sort of the action cards. The rogue agents have 5 possible actions, and the recruiter has these 2 actions that they will be taking every turn. They won't stay out when I get into explaining the gameplay, but I'm going to use those in a minute to explain how the gameplay works, and then I'll pull those off the screen. Also, it's worth mentioning that on the screen, the board is just slightly cut off. You can see down at the bottom down here, there are different slots: Immortal Recruiting, Other, Move, Immortal, and Step. These 2 cards would get placed down in those 2 spaces, and same thing on the opposite side: Move, Ask, Reveal, Shakedown, Capture, Allies, and Potential. These cards plus these 2 potential recruiters would get placed down there if you are playing a head-to-head multiplayer game, but just to save room on camera, I have put everything off to the side like that, and just want to make sure we can all see the time tracker down here at the bottom like that. So there are a few other components that I will place out in just a minute, but first, because we are playing the solo mode, we are going to be making use of the app, and the app will walk us through the rest of the setup of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the app. Now, I'm not going to show you from the beginning of the app because there are some things that unlock every time you play the game in the app, and I'd rather not spoil them for you because they're fun to explore on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and start a full game in the app, and then I'll load up the app down here in the bottom corner at the point where I've sort of already passed the add-on selection, and I will not be adding anything on for this game. Okay, so here we are with the full game, again with nothing added on. And it says, welcome to the Mind MGMT full game. Place the board in the middle of the table and follow these prompts to set up the game. Okay. Place the time token on 1 to 5 on the time track. So what this means is to start the game, the recruiter that I'm searching for will have moved 4 times on the board. So they start the board at 1 o'clock, somewhere on the board, I don't know where. And then at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 5 o'clock, they've moved orthogonally 1 space each time. So basically, they've already visited 5 locations on this board. Now, when asked if I'd like to randomize the Mayhem tokens or place them, I like to randomize them just to give myself a different puzzle each time. So I'll go ahead and place the tokens out as shown, like that, and click Done. And now it's going to put out the Immortals. And the Immortals are basically like the agents of the recruiters that are out there helping the recruiter to recruit, but also getting in our way. So we'll place them out like that. And you'll see that each of the Immortals has a number on their head. And actually on the opposite side of the immortals, they've got individual or unique character faces, but those are not going to matter in the solo game. That's basically to keep track of which one's been used when in the multiplayer game. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click Done. And now it says set up the initial recruit. Zanzibar has always been a city crawling with potential, which has been made even more clear now that you've learned that the recruiter has found 3 new agents to recruit. So in a game of mind management, it's going to be our job as the rogue agents to find and stop the recruiter before the recruiter has managed to recruit 12 new agents. So I'm going to place down here in the bottom corner of the screen 12 agent pieces. And then because they've recruited 3 in this first time slot, I'm going to place those 3 agents right down here in that first area. And what that means is, we don't know it yet, but the recruiter has 3 different features that they are going to recruit agents. And that means somewhere in those first 5 spaces that they visited, they've gone to 3 locations that had one of those, or at least one of those features on them 3 times. So they've passed 3 of their 3 features some point during those 5 spaces. And that's represented here by the 3 agents that they've recruited. Now I get to place my rogue agents. I'm just going to go ahead and place them out. And then later on when we get into gameplay, I'll explain a little bit why I put them where I did. And as I'm placing these out on the board, I'm basically just going to be selecting in the app where I place them. So now quickly in the app, I will place Bill over here, Dusty down here, Henry Lime over here, and finally Meru up here, matching the spaces on the board. Now it's going to ask me to place the mind slip on the board somewhere. So the agent is going to be moving around the board. Sorry, the recruiter is going to be moving around the board, always moving space by space, 1 space orthogonally each turn. But the recruiter is also going to start with one of these mind slip tokens. And the mind slip token is going to allow them to be using their special movement. And I'll explain all of this in just a minute when we talk about how the game plays. But they're going to be able to do that once per game. However, I am right now going to place out 1 more of those somewhere on the map around the edges of these 2 parks in the middle. And if that recruiter is ever in that space during the game, they will take this piece secretly and be able to activate their mind slip a second time. So I like that this area is kind of blocked off by these tokens here. And I'll explain again what those are in just a second. I'm going to place that right there. So in the app, same thing, clicking there and confirming. Now it says find suggestive graffiti and C4 canine assassin dogs and place them beside the board. So from here, I'm going to find the dogs and the graffiti and place those. I will put right here. Now these locations, and I'll explain more about this again as we get into gameplay, but these 2 locations are the kinds of features that the immortals are trying to get to. And if at any point 2 immortals are at a location that has one of these symbols, they will immediately recruit 1 new agent. That feature will go away and will be replaced with another feature. Which means right now that we also know that the 3 features that the recruiter are using are not the dogs or the graffiti. And again, as the immortals find recruits and start getting more features, that will let us help sort of narrow down which features the recruiter might be making use of. And with that, we are ready to get into gameplay. But before we get into gameplay, let me walk you through exactly how the game plays, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So mind management will play out over a series of rounds, with us as the rogue agents trying to track down the recruiter, and the recruiter and the immortals trying to recruit 12 new agents. And the game can end in a variety of different ways. First, if the recruiter and the immortals together have recruited 12 agents, I will immediately lose the game. Also, if this timer gets all the way to 4 o'clock, I will also lose the game. So it is my job, in order to win the game, I need to identify the current location of the recruiter and capture them there before they've captured or recruited all 12 agents and before it gets to 4 o'clock. And on every turn, or every round, we're going to start with the recruiter's turn. So the recruiter first is going to take a step action. The step action is seen here on the card. They're basically going to be able to take one step or one movement in any orthogonal direction from their current location. Again, I don't know where that is, I just know that they're moving one space at a time. They can never come back to a space that they've been to before. But also these parks here give them the opportunity to also move diagonally into or out of those parks. Again, always making sure that they've never doubled back on the same location. Also, these mayhem sort of barrier tokens on the board prevent any movement through them. So I know that they can never move through one of those barriers. That said, as I mentioned earlier, they will have a mind slip and potentially a second mind slip if they come here to pick it up. And what that's going to allow them to do is to make use of their mind slip movement ability. And right now we don't know which of these two recruiters we are facing off against. But in the case of this recruiter, they would be able to move 2 spaces diagonally from their current location, skipping over anything in between, meaning also being able to move through any mayhem tokens or any locations they've already visited during the game. And likewise for this one, instead of diagonal, they'd be moving 2 spaces orthogonally in any direction, again skipping over anything in between, allowing them to jump over mayhem or spaces they've already been to. And again, to do that, they will have to use their mind slip. They will potentially be able to do that twice, but right now only once. And in addition to taking their one movement each turn, they will also move their immortals. And the way that that's going to work is they're going to be able to move an immortal, one immortal, in any direction, either orthogonally or diagonally. And then if they choose to, they can move a second immortal by revealing, using one of these feat tokens, which I'll put out in just a second, by revealing which or a location that they've been to previously. They won't tell me when they were there, simply that they were at a location previously, and if they do that, they're allowed to move one more immortal. Remembering that if ever they have 2 immortals on the same one of either of these active features, the immortals will recruit 1 new agent. So while I'm talking about that, let me go ahead and place out those feat as well, so we can keep track of any revealed steps along the way. And then after the recruiter has taken their turn, we as the rogue agents will take our turn. And we have 4 rogue agents, but on any given round, we can only activate 2 of them. And the way they're going to work is following these actions. Every round we're going to be able to take a movement action and then 1 additional action. And a move action is going to work basically just like the recruiter, except that we're going to be moving 2 spaces or up to 2 spaces orthogonally, unless of course we're using the diagonals of the parks. And again, always never moving through the mayhem tokens on the board. And then after we've taken a movement, or before we've taken a movement, because we can choose to act and then move, or move and then act, we can take one of these 4 actions. And the first action is ask. And to ask, we're going to choose one of the features in the location that that character is currently in, and we'll ask the recruiter if they've ever been to a location with that feature. And if so, the recruiter will then have to mark one location with that feature that they've been to, not telling me when, just only that they have been to that location. But it's also worth mentioning that we cannot ask about any feature that is currently on a space with an immortal. So for example, if we were choosing Meru up here, she's got the umbrellas on her location, but because there's an umbrella on the space here with this immortal, I could not ask about umbrellas at the current time. The next action we can take is the reveal action, and this is sort of a follow-up to the ask action. And what this is I can go to a place that has one of those feet on it, one of the step tokens on it, and I can ask when the recruiter had been at that space, and they will have to tell me the exact time that they were there, and I will mark that space with one of our mental note tokens. So let me go ahead and add those out. This is our sort of the final component for the game. And these mental note tokens are going to be our only way of sort of taking notes while we play and while we track the recruiter. And these mental note tokens, as you can see here, are double-sided. One side is white, one side is green. We will be using the white side of these tokens to sort of make our own assumptions and take our own notes. And we'll use the green side anytime the recruiter has sort of confirmed something. So anytime I use a reveal action and they tell me exactly when they were at the location, I'm going to take the green side of one of these mental note tokens saying, for example, they were there at 9 o'clock, I will take that mental note then and write a 9 on it, and I would then place that on the location to tell me that they have been there at time 9 o'clock. Again, the white side I can use to take other notes to sort of help me work my way through the sort of logic puzzle of finding the recruiter. The next action that we can do, again, the reveal cannot be used if there's an immortal in the space where that step token is. Next, we've got shakedown, and this is sort of how we interact with the immortals on the board. If I move into a space with an immortal, I can ask the immortal about the features. Remember, the recruiter has 3 features that they're trying to go to recruit new agents. I can choose a feature and ask the immortals if that feature is one of the 3 features, and they'll have to tell me yes or no. If it is, I will remove that feature and the recruiter can no longer use that feature. And in either case, I could then choose to push the immortal 1 space like this, orthogonally in any direction. And that is important because, again, remembering if the immortals ever get 2 of them on any of these features, they will also recruit. So that helps me move them around a little bit on the board. And then our final action, and the one that we're going to use to win the game, is ultimately we can capture. So when we are on a space where we think the recruiter is, I can choose the capture action to attempt to say, I know you are here. And if they are, we capture them and win the game. And if not, then we continue playing. So those are all of the basic actions in the game. But in addition to those basic actions, each of our rogue agents has a special action as well. So let's walk through those and we'll be ready to get into gameplay. First, Bill Falls has his detect weakness action, which allows him to push an immortal that is adjacent to him 1 space orthogonally in any direction. And again, that's to get them away from those features that they're trying to score on. Next, Dusty has the neurorhythm ability, and this will allow him to move 1 rogue agent 1 space in addition to their normal move action of the round, and that includes himself. But also, I said 1 space, but it's actually more than 1 space if you've used the shakedown action and you've identified one of the features. For every feature you've identified, you can push or move 1 additional space. Next, we have Henry Lime with his mental block. This is sort of a passive ability that's just always working. Any immortal that is adjacent orthogonally to Henry Lime is unable to recruit at those special features. So as long as he's standing next to an immortal, those immortals are blocked from doing any recruiting. And then finally, Meru's Psychic Crosshairs. This is a sort of extra fancy searching kind of tool. She can use this as her action instead of taking one of the normal actions. And that will allow her to check, well, not really check, but scan 2 blocks or 2 spaces in all 4 orthogonal directions to find out if the recruiter is anywhere in those spaces. If they are, they will simply say, yes, they are. They're not going to tell me which of the spaces, but it will let me know if they are somewhere close to Meru. And again, that one does cost an action, but both Bill Falk's Detect Weakness and Dusty's Neurorhythm are free actions, so can be used in addition to their normal action. Finally, we have the Black Ops Dolphin ally, and this is basically going to help me once during the game when I take the Ask action. Remember, the Ask action usually allows me to ask the recruiter if they've been to a specific feature at all, and the recruiter is going to choose 1 location that they have been to and place out 1 of the step tokens. If I use the Black Ops Dolphin, instead of asking them for 1 location, they have to reveal all of the locations, including that feature that they've been to on the board. So if there's a specific feature that I think they may have visited more than once, I can use that to find them all in 1 go. So that's basically it for the way that the game plays out. I'm going to go ahead and use the app on screen with you so you can see the first round play out with the app. And then from that point on, I'll just keep the app off screen playing through on my own and just explaining to you what the app is telling me to do as I play. All right, so here we go. First round, recruiter secretly moved. So we're moving the time forward 1 space, which means that the recruiter has moved 1 more space wherever they are. Again, we don't know anything about where they are yet, but we're going to find out soon. I hit OK. and it tells me the immortal moved to the new location. So this immortal up here is going to move up to that top space. Again, they're trying to get to the dogs, and now you can see this one's at dogs, this one's at dogs. So they are going to, as soon as I hit done, they will recruit at the dogs. So the dogs are finished. Means that gets discarded. I'm just going to move those down here so we can keep track of everywhere that they've sort of activated, of all the features that are not the recruiter's features. And now the bus, the dream bus, is the next feature they are aiming for. So I'm going to place that out like that so we know that that's the next location. So again, the dream bus is also not the recruiter's target. I click OK. And it says Rogue Agent's turn. Ask questions, listen carefully. Take notes and analyze data before you act. It's your turn to uncover the truth about mind management. Okay. So again, I get to choose 2 agents to activate with 1 action and 1 move, doing them in either order, either move and then act or act and then move. Then I see in this part of the board, there's a graffiti there, there's a bus right there. If I put him here, those 2 spaces are blocked because of his mental block ability. So I am going to do that. So I'm going to say first in the app, selecting Henry Lime, moving him, confirm, move him 1 space that way, like that. So he goes here. And then I'm going to ask. I've got graffiti and pools. And looking at the 4 locations where the immortals are, none of those things exist. So I can ask about either of them. So I'm going to click on Henry Lime, ask, and at this point I don't really have any information, so I'm going to go with graffiti. No, not graffiti, because I see that they're going graffiti. So let's see, the pool could be one of the locations the recruiter wants. I'm going to confirm the pool, and sure enough, we see that at this 3rd space down here, the recruiter has been there. So now there's a foot or a step token there that says they've been there at some point. So that's the end of Henry Lime's turn. I'm going to flip that over just so we know he's taken his turn. Bill's turn. I'm going to come here and figure out what that is. So I'm going to select Bill, move, confirm, move down 1. So he's now at this location, and I'm going to take the reveal action. And it says they were there at 2, which is not great because that means they were there a very long time ago because it's now 6. But again, I'm going to take one of those green mental note tokens, mark that as a 2, and drop that right there. Also kind of scary that they were there at 2. They may have already picked up their mental slip. All right, then next round recruiter moved again. We're moving this to 7. Now I'm showing this to you because on the app, you will see in just a minute, first, Immortal's moving here to a graffiti spot, done. And it says the recruiter has found 1 recruit. On this time tracker, any time that the recruiter moves into a space that has a red symbol, that is a time that they're going to tell me how many new agents they've recruited during that sort of time space. So between 6 and 7, they've recruited 1 new recruit, like that. And now again, it is my turn, and I'm going to turn the app off of the screen so that I can just focus on gameplay. And again, I will explain what I'm doing as I do it. Also, let me flip Bill, let me flip Bill over here. Remember, he's activated. So we've got Meru and Dusty this turn. And Meru's on an umbrella and a tree. Umbrella would be nice to know because of this, but I can't because he's on an umbrella. I wouldn't mind asking about this farm field. Yeah, let's do that. Dusty's going to move over here, and then he's going to ask about the gardens. And sure enough, they've already been over there, which means they do have the second mind slip, which is not great. Dusty's turn ended. Meru's turn. She's gonna search something. I want to go a little bit further away. If I assume this is 1, 2, they could have gone anywhere. Yeah, I'm gonna come over here and search this billboard. So she comes over there, and we're gonna ask about the billboards. And it says no. The recruiter's never been to a billboard. So we're going to take a bunch of these mental note tokens. And we know that from 1 to 7, the recruiter's never been to a space with a billboard. So I can put an X 1 to 7 like that and place those out on all of the spaces that have billboards. Because that's going to sort of help us eliminate locations where they haven't been. And down here, I mean, there's no way they made it that far down anyway. I think from that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no. And that's it for billboards. And that's also it for our turn. The recruiter moves again. And this guy's moving over here, which unfortunately is going to be double graffiti. So they're going to recruit again. Whoops. There's a recruit there and a recruit there. Okay, and they're getting the coffee shop next. Like that. Okay, then I kind of want to avoid stuff that's in locations adjacent to here. Because this could be 1, 2, or 2, 3, but I want to try and find further away. Let's look at these torches. If there's no torches on a thing, there's not. Okay, so everybody's possibly activatable again. And I also just realized that when I did find or reveal this, I should remove that step token. Good. Then I'm just going to start with Bill, and I'm going to ask right away about this torches here. Because they can't say the same space they've already mentioned. So if there was a torch, I'm hoping that here or here might be activated, because that'll give me a little bit more information further away. And the answer is no. Okay. Interesting. So now we've got X1 to 8 in those locations. There, there. Where else is a torch? All the way over here, that wouldn't have happened anyway. We know they've already been to that torch. Yeah, that's it. They already haven't been here. So that's actually a 1 to 8 now, not just a 1 to 7. All right. And I think for now, Bill, yeah, I'm going to move Bill over just to put him with that step token right here in case I decide to reveal it later. And then I think I'm going to come here and check one of these with Dusty. Like this. And he's going to ask about either of them is fine. Let's see. If it's trees, it could be here or here. If it's buses, it could be here or here. Where's the next closest bus or tree? Here? I don't think so. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could be. Tree over here. Yeah, let's ask about the trees. Oh, very interesting. This one is a yes. Huh. Okay. In that case, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can't be a 1. I know they've never been there, and I know they've never been there, so they had to have gone in a straight line. So this is likely, let me use some white ones to mark these off. This is likely 1. Then 2. Then should be 3 here. 4 here. And 5 here. We'll have to confirm later, but that's potentially true. I'm going to move him down 1 more. No, I'm not. That would require his special ability. It's not worth it right now. We're going to end there. And I see 1 to 5, he picked up 3 things. So during that time, not including bus, coffee, dog, or graffiti, he picked up 3 things. Yeah, but the only thing that doesn't count is buses. Everything else could be something. All right, so the recruiter moving again. This immortal goes up here, which is a bus or coffee. Okay, we're all right. Done. Oh, okay. Well, we already know they've been there, but there's revealing that location to move one more immortal, which is unfortunate because now they're coming down coffee, and coffee is going to activate. So they're going to recruit from coffee. Move that over here like that. Their next symbol is the billboard, like that. Which again doesn't tell me too much because in this pathway they didn't go through any billboards. And they did just recruit one more agent like that. All right, then, assuming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they came here for 6, they may have come here for 7. And there's no other fountain that they could have possibly gone to. But, all right, he's done. I don't want to move him because he's blocking this bus. But it doesn't matter because they'll come here for a billboard or they'll go there for a bus, so I can't block both anyway. What else do I want to look? This one? And this one maybe? The tuk-tuks are safe. The fountains are safe. Let's ask both of those. So Meru's going to move down 1 to here and ask about the fountains. And sure enough, there's a token there. And I don't have any information, but if this is 5, then 6, 7, or 6, 7 like that. So I'm going to guess that that's a 7. And we're at 9 right now. And I know up to 8 they never went here. So from there, they could have only gone there. So 6, 7, 8. I'm going to guess that 9 is here. And tuk-tuk makes that happen. All right, so we're going to move Henry Lime to the top here, which now blocks the billboard and the bus, which is great. And he's going to search for the thought courier or those little tuk-tuks, and sure enough, that. So I'm going to have to assume that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And from there, they can only go to one of these 3 locations on the next turn, but I'm going to guess they're going to mind slip. They didn't. Okay. Then, if my guessing is correct, then everybody's back to life again. First things first, this guy moves here to the bus and does recruit at a bus. They're getting torches next, like that. I can't get anywhere that I need to get to. I want to search dogs. All right, then I'm going to take a gamble. They must be here or here or here. I'm going to put a 9 here, maybe. They can't be here because 7, 8, 9. So they have to be one of these 3 locations. Trying to recruit, they're not a bus. They're not a billboard. They're not a torch. I'm going to guess they went here. And following this path, there are no other dogs they followed. So I'm going to send Henry Lime to the dogs, asking about dogs, and no, they've never been to dogs. All right, so 1 to 10 is not here. It means it has to be here or here. And they didn't like either of these, so I'm going to assume they went here. So I'm going to use Dusty, use his neurorhythm to move himself 1 space here. Hold on, Henry Lime is done. So Dusty's here. Then he's going to take a regular move action to move here, like that. And I'm going to capture. And we'll see if we get lucky. Because he's either here or here. And if he's not here, then he'll be here on the next turn, but I can't get there. Confirm. Let's see what happens. I win. Awesome. Dusty just found the recruiter in that location, and we managed to track down the recruiter. All right, so let me quickly bring the app back up on the screen so that you can see. Oh, I unlocked a new shift package eraser. I'm not going to show you what that is, but again, I mentioned to you that every time we play the game, we are unlocking stuff in the app, and these are called shift packages. Every time I win, we unlock a shift package for the recruiter. Every time I lose, we unlock a shift package for ourselves, the rogue agents. And what those are is at the start of any game, we can activate any of those packages to either make the game a little bit more difficult or a little bit more easy, depending on whether or not we're giving this stuff to ourselves or to the recruiter. And they twist up the game, adding some new rules and such to make the game a little bit different each time you play. All right, so now it shows us the map, and sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we managed to successfully win the game. All right, so let me clear the app off again one more time and let me talk quickly about the components, because I do that in all of my videos. Again, this is the deluxe copy of the game, so things are not going to look like this in every copy of the game. Just making that clear. First thing I want to say is yay, wow, yay, wow. I'm a big fan of Mind Management and Matt Kint's art in Mind Management, and this game on the table is Mind Management. This map is gorgeous. It looks really cool. The sort of comic book artwork pops out at you. All of the symbology, or the symbols on the board, are very easy to identify, very easy to see what's where and how. Just really well designed. I did hear in an interview that the original version of the map was not this, and the designer went back to Matt Kint and said, here's some ideas, can you try this? And I'm glad they did, because this looks amazing. All of the cards that you see out here on the table, again, great stuff. If you're a fan of Mind Management at all, you know it's sort of this weird sort of subliminal messaging and advertising kind of stuff. And each of these feature cards, I'll just show you a couple of them quickly, is exactly that. They're all sort of ads that show the feature in some way, and it really does bring out the feel of the comics. On the back of these two, you get this really cool poppy artwork, which does have some hidden messaging in there as well. And I will talk about that a little bit more moving forward, but there is a lot of hidden stuff in this game, just like there is in the comic book. You can see, I think, along the edge of this board, there's some double writing in red and blue. If you have a pair of 3D glasses, you can sort of close one eye or the other. The turn marker here, as you can see as I hold it up to the camera, is a red lens, so you could potentially use this to read some of that text as well, like that. Just really cool to have that same feeling of hidden stuff in this game, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but hidden stuff in this game just like you have in the comic book itself. All of these wooden components, really cool to me. I'm a big fan of wooden components. Again, this is the deluxe version. Some of these things are simply sort of cardboard tokens in the regular retail version of the game, but let me just give you a closer look at some of this stuff, because I do really love the design look of this. Like these Mayhem tokens, they didn't have to paint them up like this, but they look really cool that way. These little feet to show the steps, these sort of silhouette, half silhouettes of a face as the agent's being recruited, this sort of small figure inside of a larger figure as if they're slipping away for the Mind Slip tokens. Just really cool design of the components. And most importantly, talking about cool design of components, these whiteboard or dry erase chips are really cool. I don't know how much it comes across on camera, but these are really sort of heavy duty, kind of like a Bakelite plastic, super clinky, really nice. They clean off very nicely. I would love to see this kind of a token in many other games, just because they're really cool. And I will talk more about those when we get into how the game plays, because they are a pretty important feature of gameplay as well. The other thing I do talk about in these videos when talking about components is the insert. Again, stressing this is the deluxe copy of the game, but let me show you the insert, because you can see here it's very well designed. Everything has a nice place to go. All of the step tokens go there. The recruited agents go there. These Mayhem tokens can go in here. All of the agents will fit into this well right here. The markers all have a nice spot for them. All of those mental note tokens fit in there real nicely. All the cards fit right in here. The two mind slips and the round tracker go in that little space right there. real nice. You can also see lots of hidden writing and reversed writing and stuff in this as well. Let me clear off this board so I can show you how everything fits into the box, because again, it is designed very nicely. For the multiplayer version of the game, the recruiter is going to use this small board with a marker keeping track of where they've been at any time in the game. And this fits very nicely in a sort of recessed area right here in the box, holding all of the components inside. The board itself folds up, and let me show you something cool as well with the board. On the back of the board is some panels from the Mind Management comic book to help you sort of understand who the different agents are and what's going on in the story of the game. If you're not familiar with the comic, very cool edition. And that slots right in here, also held in tight real nicely in that insert. Again, another component for the multiplayer game only is this player screen that the the recruiter person would use to slot in their feature cards here, just keeping track and keeping everything secret from the agents. Again, this slides right in here like that, which is real nice, fits nicely in there. And then maybe my favorite piece of this game, but also what makes me the saddest about this game, is this thing right here. When you first open the box, you can see this fits in right here. The box has a nice cutout on the side like this, so you can easily get your hands in there and lift it out. This piece is just a work of art. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous heavy-duty box. And inside here, I showed you in the app every time we win or lose, we unlock those shift packages. These, when you play the multiplayer game, is the sort of physical shift packages that you do the same thing in the multiplayer game. So these decks all have some kind of special new rule or new unlock or new feature or new piece for the rogue agents on this side. And again, for the recruiters on the other side, just a really cool piece of packaging with some gorgeous, gorgeous matte Kint artwork in there. Now, it is a little bit sad, I said, because a lot of this doesn't get used in the solo game, which is primarily how I've been playing this game. The app does unlock some stuff, and some of those unlocks will pull a card or a piece from some of these boxes, but for the most part, this stuff is designed to work with the multiplayer game, but it's just a really gorgeous piece of work. That all slots in there. Now, last thing I do want to talk about, I talked a little bit already about the sort of hidden stuff in this game. This rulebook as well has lots of sort of strange crossed out things or symbology like this, or let's see, double writing like this. You can see here blue and red writing. Lots of different weird symbols and hidden stuff in this book. And the cool thing is, not just in this book, but throughout all of the components in the game, there's lots of stuff that's hidden. And some of that stuff that's hidden is marked by these sort of 3 squiggly lines. And anything that you find in here that's marked by squiggly lines has a code that you can figure out and go to a website online to sort of unlock other special stuff that's not in the game. Now, as far as I know, in the retail version, when you unlock those things, they are going to be sort of print and play extra cards and components that you can print out and play with. But at least in this copy of the deluxe copy, I'm not sure if it's in all of them, but there are these sort of secret mission envelopes, and these secret mission envelopes are exactly what you're going to be unlocking. So you go online, you put in the code, and it'll tell you to unlock one of these secret mission envelopes, and those are basically going to add more stuff to the game, just like the shift system did as well. Just, again, more variability and just a whole lot of fun trying to find this sort of hidden subliminal stuff in the game, which I think is really cool. With all that said, meet me back up top and let's talk about what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. As I mentioned up top, I'm a big fan of the Mind Management comic book, and diving into this, I was really excited because of the IP. And now let's see, how do I feel about the game and the hidden movement piece of it, being someone who generally was not a huge fan of that genre or of that mechanism. Before I do jump in, I already mentioned this quickly in the components overview, but I just want to mention it again here because it's really true. And that is that the Mind Management IP really shines in this game. So regardless of the mechanism, as a fan of the comic book, just having that there really did pull me in and really did make me excited to try this game out. So with that said, how do I feel about the game? Well, ultimately it is still a hidden movement game, and ultimately hidden movement is still not my favorite genre or my favorite mechanism. So there is that. I'm not going to say that this is the best game I've ever played, but it could very well be the best hidden movement game that I've ever played. And let's talk a little bit about what I enjoy about this game. I'm actually going to talk about things sort of in reverse, because the main reason I reached out to get a review copy of this game, aside from the fact that it was based on Mind Management, is the fact that I could play it solo. And one of the things that I tend not to really enjoy about hidden movement games is that I'm not generally a fan of sort of the gameplay above the table when you're playing a game. I don't want to have to outsmart my opponent sort of socially. I don't want to have to talk to my opponent and, convince them of something while I'm playing. Things like bluffing or auctioning or sort of social deduction kind of things, trading, all of these kinds of things tend to be things that I don't generally enjoy all that much in a game. And this is ultimately what makes hidden movement a little bit of a miss for me. So growing up, I actually had a copy of Scotland Yard that I enjoyed playing quite a bit as a kid. And then recently, my mother actually picked me up a new copy of it for Christmas a few years back. And I played it a couple times and I just realized, yeah, this is not a game that I want to ever play again. And it's mostly for that reason. I like to play a game based on the mechanisms of the game. I like to put my brain on the table in the game and play the rules of the game, tweaking the rules of the game, learning and digging and playing and doing everything I can within the sort of structure of the game. And I don't want to have to worry about outsmarting my opponent on a sort of mind game above the table kind of thing. So when I heard that this hidden movement game had a solo mode, I was quite excited, because that means it becomes more about the deduction and the puzzle than it does about this sort of mind game. And I like that a lot, because I tend to be a big fan of sort of real logical style deduction games. I really enjoyed games like Cryptid. I really recently enjoyed Search for Planet X, again, as a social deduction game recently. Lots of fun with that one. But this one now is a hidden movement game, which is generally a sort of social deduction kind of game, but with that social piece stripped out, because I'm playing against a computer opponent who I can't sort of psych out, who I can't read by looking at their eyes, who I can't sort of predict based on patterns that they've done before, because this is an AI that I'm playing against. And I was really excited about that. So let's talk about that first. What do I feel about the solo mode of this game? Well, let me say first that this is a very well-designed app. It's very smooth, it plays very well, and it really does put the puzzle front and center, because I can focus on solving the puzzle of where the recruiter is without dealing with any of the social stuff. And it also really does play out well. It really does play out as a game sort of on the table. Yes, it's using the app that's removed from that board, but I'll get to that in a minute, because it's not really. It does actually help to have the board to play this game, and you'll see why in a minute. But I just want to congratulate the team on the fact that the AI does a great job of running the game. I'll talk a little bit more about why I said it that way in just a second, but the AI works well. It puts the puzzle in front of me, it makes me figure out the puzzle, and it even adds in those shift packages. Now, they're different shift packages than the one in the box, but it does give me new abilities or new rules that I can add, or that I can sort of add to the recruiter to make it more difficult, more challenging for me. And it really does play out nicely. I think that this is a worthwhile solo mode, and it's not just a tacked on, let's see if we can do it kind of thing. I think this game is really well done as a solo game. Now, there is a little bit of hesitation, because I'm not convinced that the AI is always making the best decisions that it can be making. For example, in the playthrough that you just watched of me, there was a point where I was sort of one space away from the AI, and it was down to like 1, 2, or 3 spaces where they could potentially be. And at that point, it would have been a great opportunity for the AI to use the mind slip token to get away, right? To jump 2 spaces, either orthogonally or diagonally. I don't know, because I don't know which recruiter they are. But they had 2 of them, and they should have used it to run away faster, instead of sort of hanging out where I am and putting themselves in a bad place. There was another playthrough that I played through of this where the AI sort of had two potential locations that could have gone from a previous location. And if it had gone one direction, it would have put itself in a position that none of my characters could reach it to capture it, and then it would have had a chance to have a turn or two to get away again. But instead, it chose to move the direction that I could reach it. I moved my character there, I pressed capture, and sure enough, they were there. So if it was a human player, they never would have done that, because if they'd gone the other way, I would have taken at least 2 turns to get to where they are, and by that point, there would have been a little bit more option about where they could go. So I'm not 100% convinced that the AI is always thinking as smart as it can. Now that said, I didn't pay 100% attention to the locations that it could have jumped to, and it may have been that slipping somewhere else may have been putting it into a place where it couldn't move anymore because it was surrounded by locations it had already gone to. So there is some level of depth there that I may be wrong, but it seems to me like sometimes the AI is not always making the best decisions that it could make. That said, it's still nice to have a puzzle like this that I can solve as a solo experience that plays quite a bit like the actual game itself when you'd be playing multiplayer against a real person. So, that said about the AI, what do I think about the game itself? Is that puzzle an interesting puzzle? And the answer for me is yes and no. The answer for me is yes, because I do like a logical deduction puzzle, and that is what you get here. There is some level of logic. If they went here, then they could only go here, so I should check there, and if they didn't go there, then they probably went here, and I can sort of put together this map of possibilities. And using that map of possibilities, it does really make for an interesting thought puzzle about where can I sort of wind down the path to figure out where they're going and then get there to capture them before they go somewhere else and get lost again. And that puzzle is a whole lot of fun. Now, I am going to tell you right now that this is actually the second time I'm recording this video, because the first time I recorded the video, I was taking notes randomly. I wasn't doing very well at tracking the recruiter as they went through. I showed the video to the designer, and he suggested that I look back at the rules, because there are very specific rules about how you're supposed to be tracking and what kinds of notes you can be taking, and that's to use those mental note tokens, the little sort of double-sided dry erase tokens, in a smart way. Not only placing what you know, but placing what you know that you don't know, or things that you've confirmed are not true. So those places where I placed off can't be 1 to 7, can't be 1 to 8. And doing it that way and playing more like that, it did add quite a bit more logic back into the game. So thank you, Jay. I'm sorry that I played it strangely the first time, because you were right. By playing with those mental note tokens, it does really add that extra level of logic, which is why I'm saying I think I enjoy this more than any other hidden movement game I've played, because using those mental notes really does make this sort of more of an if-then kind of logical puzzle that I can solve, and I enjoy it quite a bit more with that. But that said, it's not 100% that, because it's still very much based on which features I'm asking about, when I'm asking about those features, which features the sort of immortals are stepping on so that I can't ask about those features, how well I'm blocking them from their specific features to block them from recruiting things, how well I'm predicting which features the recruiter is going to so I can stop them from doing that, or so that I can use that to help me track them. And there's a whole lot of sort of intuition that needs to happen here, and a little bit of luck. I'm not going to say that there's no luck in this game, because honestly, the game that I played right before the game that I reviewed, or that I played through on the camera today, took me 2 turns. The first turn I searched, it says the AI was here 1 step ago. The second step, I went to the location next to it, I captured, and there it was. So it literally took me 2 turns to win the game. And that's not a fun puzzle. Now, granted, that's very rare and very unlikely to happen, but it happened. So there is a little bit of randomness there about that, but there is a little bit of sort of intuition about, should I check here, should I check there? And as you work your way through the logic, the intuition goes away and the logic grows. So it does become a more puzzly puzzle as you're playing. But to start off the game, you can get lucky with a guess, you can get really unlucky with a guess, and that still will determine a little bit how much and how long it takes you to try and figure out where things are. So there is still a little bit of level of push your luck, random intuition-based kind of stuff that in a logic-based game, me as a sort of science and math kind of guy, in a logic-based game is not as exciting or not as fun as something like Search for Planet X, where it is very much, if I know this, I can know this, and it's about making those logical connections in my brain. Now, saying that, I can promise you that I don't get everything about this game, because I know that I'm not very good at blocking the immortals from getting to their locations to recruit things. I also know that I'm really bad at trying to figure out which features the recruiter, the 3 features that the recruiter has as theirs. I have never, ever, ever used the shakedown action on an immortal to guess one of those features. And it might be that I could just randomly try it and see what happens, but it never seems to be smarter or better than anything else that I'm doing. And I guarantee that that action is in the game for a reason, which means that mentally, or at least logically, I'm missing some piece of this, and I'm not connecting completely with the game for that reason. Now, it might be that you're much better at taking those leaps of logic and connecting that if the immortals have done these things and this person's gone through this path, then probably these features are good, so let's guess this feature. So there's definitely a level here that my brain is not getting to. Using those mental note tokens definitely helps to make this more of a logical puzzle, but there is definitely still quite a bit of that intuition push your luck here. And I'm not 100% behind that or a fan of that, except to say that when you make that leap of logic, when you use your intuition and you push your luck and it pays off and you find the person, or you get the information that you hope you were getting, the feeling you get out of that is one that's really, really satisfying, because it's like, ha, I did it. I got them, I caught them, and it really does add to that tension and that feel of, well, of mind management, of the comic book, of that sort of intense, bad guys are out there, we have to stop them kind of feeling. And that does feel really good when it comes through. So I do have to say I enjoy that piece of it as well. So ultimately, what I'm saying is the AI is designed very well. Maybe not the smartest, but it plays very nicely and it feels like you're playing the actual game. The deduction here is very good deduction. I'd say that this is quite a bit more logical than a lot of hidden movement games, so that does make it a little bit better for me, but ultimately it still is a hidden movement game, and it's not necessarily my favorite genre or mechanism out there. If you are a fan of hidden movement, definitely check this one out, especially if you're a comic book fan. Even more so if you love mind management, you love hidden movement, this game is a must check, at least probably a must own in that situation. Definitely take a look if this seems like something you'd be interested in. Beyond that, keep an eye out on this publisher Off the Page Games. I'm a huge fan of creator-owned comics. All of their games are going to be based on creator-owned comics. I know they just put Harrow County out on crowdfunding not too long ago. I'm very curious to see how that game turns out. I'd love to take a look at that one as well, and I cannot wait to see what other comic books they start doing games for, because I have a whole long list of creator-owned comics that I'd love to see games come from, and fingers crossed that some of those might actually happen. I will definitely be keeping an eye on this company. Thanks again for watching. I hope that this video was helpful. If you did enjoy it, please remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.